This is how to do the perfect barbell hip thrust to build the juiciest dump truck you have ever seen. You'll also get the common mistakes to avoid and the best rep range to use for this exercise. If this is your first few times doing this movement, start with a lightweight. Your goal right now is to learn good form, not train heavy. Number 1, bench height. Find a box or bench that's between the height of your mid shin and knee. This will allow you to comfortably rest your shoulder blades back on the bench, and you shouldn't feel like you have to climb on top of the bench. Always make sure your bench is screwed in or has a backstop because the bench can start sliding during the movement. Number 2, bar placement. Place it perfectly centered with your body. Put the bar into the crease of your hips. As you lift more and more weight, you'll feel the bar pressing into your spine. Use a foam pad if necessary, or you can also fold up a yoga mat and use this for cushion. Number 3, foot stance. Place your legs lying down. Put a finger where your knee is. Now, bring your heel back to your finger. This will allow you to create the perfect 90-degree angle at your knee when you lift up. Your feet and knees should be about shoulder width apart. Number 4, the lift. Start at the top. Tuck your chin into your chest to keep your spine straight throughout the movement. Your eyes should be looking down at your knees and not up towards the ceiling. Brace your core like somebody was going to punch you. This will help keep the tension throughout your body and keep your lower back from arching. Bend at the hip down to where your range of motion allows. It's very tempting to go all the way down because you think there's more muscle growth there, but most people don't have this range of motion naturally. Instead of hinging at your hip, what happens is your lower back ends up bending to complete the movement. This is not good. Work with the range of motion you have, not the one you want. Once you're at the bottom, thrust back into the air by driving the floor away through your heels. Squeeze your glutes like there's a coin in between your butt and you really don't want it to fall. Hold this squeeze for 1 to 2 seconds. Then repeat the movement again and make sure you control the weight on the way back down. It's very tempting to let the weight fall and thrust back up, but this is where half the muscle growth happens. Slow down and control the movement on the way down. Then repeat the movement for reps. What are common mistakes that you need to avoid to build the most muscle? Mistake number 1, going way too heavy. As a beginner, it's easier to think that the heavier the weight, the more muscle you build. And there is some truth in that. You need to get stronger with every lift to put on more muscle. However, what you see on social media where people have 4 to 5 plates on each side is not necessary for muscle growth. If you want to grow muscle, you need to focus on quality of repetitions instead of just how much weight you can lift. Focus on doing a full range of motion, controlling the eccentric portion of a lift, holding the squeeze, pushing 1 or 2 reps away from failure. These are all just as important for muscle growth. Choose a light weight to start off, then add 10 to 20 pounds at a time as you reach the end of your rep range. Mistake number 2. Real quick interruption, subscribe for more no BS content and click the link in the description for a free one-on-one consultation session where we talk about your fitness goals, how to overcome any challenges in your workout and nutrition plan, and answer any questions you might have. Alright, back to the video. Mistake number 2. You feel too much in your quads, hamstrings, thighs, and pretty much everywhere instead of your glutes. This all has to do with your feet placement. For most people, if you're not creating a 90-degree angle at your knee and your feet are not shoulder width apart, then you will not feel it in your glutes. If your feet are too wide, you'll feel it in your inner thighs. If your feet are too close to your body, you'll feel it in your quads. However, everyone's body anatomy is a little bit different. Play around with your feet placement during your lift to see what works best for you. Also, make sure you're putting an emphasis on your heels as you're doing the thrust. Push away the floor by driving through your heels instead of your entire foot. Mistake number 3. You feel a lower back pump after this exercise. This is happening because instead of bending at the hip, you're letting your lower back start arching instead of keeping it straight and stable. This can happen while you're coming down or thrusting up. You should only come down to where your range of motion allows. Remember that as you get lower and lower, there's less and less tension on your glutes. You're not getting a lot of muscle growth when you go past your normal range of motion. You want to practice this motion because it's new. Try only bending at the hip while keeping your spine straight. Also, on the way up, do not overextend your hip. Come all the way up to where you feel really good tension in your glutes, but your back is still straight. For me, these were way too many cues to focus on at one time. What I did is spend a few days just working on simple glute bridges, worked my way up to bodyweight hip thrust, and then started using weight. And I found this to work out much better because I could focus on one cue at a time. Mistake number 4, not squeezing at the top or controlling the eccentric. Since there's not a big range of motion in this movement and not a lot of tension being placed on the glutes throughout, you want to make sure you're maximizing the time you do spend under tension. When you get to the top, hold it for 1 or 2 seconds. You will feel the best burn you've ever felt in your life. How many reps should you do? Everyone's a little different, but the best rep range for most people will be between 10 to 20 reps for this movement. The 5 to 10 rep range can work, but that's better used for compounds like squats, deadlifts, and bench press. The 20 to 30 rep range can work, but it's not very practical to use for hip thrusts. You might notice yourself become tired of stabilizing the weight, running out of breath, or becoming so mentally fatigued that you can't do any more reps. Failure to training is effective because you are taking that target muscle to failure. Therefore, somewhere between 10 to 20 reps will work best for most people. Final tips: always start with a few bodyweight hip thrusts to get blood flow into those glutes so you can get a good mind muscle connection before you start doing the actual exercise with weights. Number 2, this is a complicated movement. If it takes you a while to get the hang of it, that should be expected. Practice, practice, practice.